by the military-industrial complex.
I'm just a patsy.
Said this once or twice, but it bears repeating. If you like your current insurance, you will keep your current insurance.
You think about the Army and the Navy and the missions they run to protect the world, they run on SAP.
Well, you have done a really spectacular job. I guess pretty much everybody at this table is your customer, so that's not so bad.
Exactly.
So I want to congratulate
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
And we're back. Well, I'm back, and Carie is actually on screen today. Hi, Carie.
Hi.
This was Carrie's idea, and she announced to me right before we went live that she doesn't want to do this. But I dragged her. I dragged her kicking and screaming. So George is on an airplane today, and we thought, well, why don't we just talk about the Duke report, because that's what we were originally supposed to be talking about, and we just never wound up doing it. So that's the plan today. Of course, you know, like all best laid plans, they seem to go awry as soon as the first shot is taken, and so that's what we're going to do. So how are you doing today, Carie?
I'm great. How about you?
Well, I spent all day kind of getting you set up with the same kind of rig that I've got, so
Right.
that you could look as beautiful as possible. So I hope that rings true visually for our audience. Where do you want to start today? There was a question that somebody put up on the board. Let me see. What's the raid really about? And if you've been watching me for a while, then you know that I have a rubric that I use to apply to sudden and unexpected events, which is MICE plus F, which stands for money, ideology, compromise or coercion, ego, energy, or family or bloodline. And I would guess that this is the big C, and I'm not talking about cancer. This is the big compromise or coercion. This is being done to send a message to anybody who would want to vote for Donald Trump, or to Donald Trump himself, or anybody who thinks that, you know, they're going to be able to get around the law, as Nancy Pelosi says. Nancy Pelosi said today, I think, that nobody is above the law. And of course, nobody really is above the law, but when you live in a place where you don't have equally distributed justice, then I don't even know what that means anymore. You live, I like to think that the state that we live in is run by gangsters, and if you think of it more like a Coppola movie, then it makes a lot more sense. So, you know, and that includes Donald Trump. So Donald Trump's a gangster, and Joe Biden's a gangster, and you know, all these people are gangsters. So when you send the FBI over, you're basically sending your goons, you know, like, you know, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, or, you know, you're sending somebody over to send a message that this is Donald Trump getting a fish wrapped in newspaper. I think that's what this is about. But like I said, if you use that rubric, then you'll be way ahead of most people in trying to figure out what's going on. So what else? Sir Monstable says, bar dirt in that safe is my guess. Maybe. You know, maybe. I mean, look, maybe it's the Jeffrey Epstein files. You know, the judge, apparently, here, I'll bring this this tweet by Jason Burmisup. Let's see. Right here. The judge who signed off on the FBI raid at Mar-a-Lago donated $2,000 to Obama's campaign and represented Epstein's Lolita Express pilots, his private assistant, and his Yugoslavian sex slave. So, it used to be like 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. And now I'm starting to think it's like 1 or 2 degrees of Epstein. Because Epstein seems to be like, a spider who's sitting in the middle of a spider web, and he's close to everyone. So the judge who signed the court order worked representing Epstein's staff, and Trump knew Epstein. So there always seems to be like this Epstein component to it. So we'll see. I don't know what the issue. I don't know what's the real story is. All I can do is look at the metadata and guess using my rubrics.
Well, on information liberation, their headline is judge who signed off on FBI raid of Mar-a-Lago represented Jeffrey Epstein's Lolita Express. All the same headline, but he also prosecuted Epstein originally in the story, but not really, like with kid gloves prosecuted.
All right, let me bring that up, and you can keep talking about it. All right,
Oh, well, I don't. He's got a long history with this case. I don't know if our viewers can read that.
Let me see if I can blow it up then. Oop, I blew up the wrong thing. Leslie is saying hi, Carie.
Hi, Leslie.
Did Jeffrey Epstein... Okay, so this is not the same prosecutor, is it? Isn't that the guy who used to be the...
There's Acosta.
Yeah, that's
he's
Acosta,
involved,
right, yeah.
But he's involved, but so was this other character, Reinhardt.
Reinhardt, in a 2011 sworn affidavit submitted in the civil case, Reinhardt denied he did anything unethical or improper. He asserted that under penalty of perjury, he is not part of the team involved in Epstein's investigation and therefore was not privy to any of the confidential information about the case. So it's all a big coincidence. I believe that. I believe everything that I see on television and in the media. In response to a request for comment from the Herald last year, Reinhardt said he doesn't recall learning anything about Epstein's criminal case. It was on national news. I mean, like, I guess maybe it's like me. He doesn't watch television. Like, do we believe that? Let me see. No, where does it say? No words on this raid. 87, yeah. Yeah, they'll be, yeah, again, they don't need words. Like, they have all the non-words that they need. They sent the FBI in, they raided an ex-president of the United States of America. And people in the, I've seen people make comments that like this proves that we're not a banana republic. And I was going, I don't, banana republics raid ex-presidents. That's what they do. They go after the previous office holders. They throw them in jail. I think there's a few in prison right now, aren't there? Isn't there like a South Korean president, or I can't remember. Maybe the people in the chat will know. But yeah, I think that there's a few ex-presidents of countries. Usually like retirement for if you're the governor of Illinois is prison. So
Well, I mean, that's better than getting shot. That's what happened to the guy in Japan, right?
Yeah, Abe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Abe just got shot because he was thinking about running again. So.
Well, isn't Trump thinking about running again?
Yeah, it's funny. I'd love to see I would love to see a recording of the conversation between Trump's Secret Service security staff and the FBI.
Yeah.
Because they're basically there to make sure that nothing happens to him. So where do you want to start today? Yeah, Milosevic. Ron says, "Oh yeah, Milosevic." It's like, yeah. Where do you want to start?
Well, we did start. We started with Trump and the raid. There's a lot of news. I saw also about the IRS agents. That doesn't bode well. I know Obama, I forget how many it was, but it was a big number that he put on board onto the IRS. So they're just adding more and more. Like, soon we'll all work for the IRS, because what else do you have to work for?
Yeah, I actually think that I have a comment on it from David Knight that I can bring in here. So let me see if I can bring in David Knight.
Leslie says Trump gets pardoned by Michelle Obama. That would be hilarious.
Yeah, you and Joel. What's Joel's like? Gilbert would agree on that, right? Okay, that it would be Michelle Obama that would be doing that. So here, let's see if we can hear the audio, folks.
The bill will spend $80 billion to supersize the IRS with 87,000 new agents and auditors, and it will ramp
Odyssey doesn't like me.
up.
It was doing this with Jason Burmis the other day. Okay, well, I guess I can't do that. There's an issue with Odyssey. When I try to stream videos from Odyssey, they will play for about 10 seconds and then stop. So, yeah, David Knight goes on to explain that that they're increasing the budget of the IRS $80 billion, and they are bringing on 87,000 new agents and auditors to ramp up audits. Now, it's interesting because I wonder whether or not this will speed up my IRS issue. In 2017, I believe, I used to be married to someone else, and we got divorced 11 years ago, and we owned a piece of property. And when we did all of the paperwork, somehow one of the deeds or one of the official documents for the real estate that I used to own that I don't own became it didn't get filed correctly. I don't know what happened. And my ex-wife refinanced the house, and when she did, it triggered something in some IRS system that said that I must be making a mortgage payment on a house, and so my income must be X. And so based on their guess about how much money I owed, that I needed to pay them a bunch of money. And it took me a while. It took me 9 or 10 months to actually figure out what they were talking about. But right at the time when I figured it out, COVID hit. And I have a competent tax attorney who got in touch with the IRS. And the IRS said, well, we can't really do anything about it because there's nobody in the office because of COVID. And we're backed up at least 9 months. And my attorney said, well, they're backed up 9 months just in giving us an answer to how they came up with this assessment of me. And so my attorney said, well, you sent us a demand for the money, but you can't show us why you think that we owe it. And they said, well, just put in an extension and we'll get to it when there's people back in the office. And so I said okay, and my attorney said okay, and and I started thinking in the back of my mind, Trump was always saying, well, it's between my attorneys and the IRS, and that's exactly where I'm at right now. And what's interesting is that about every 6 weeks, they were sending me a new notice telling me that I owed this money. And so I would have to call my attorney, and then my attorney would have to call the IRS. And now she's just got on automatic reply with the IRS whenever they ask for the money again. Because if there isn't anybody in the office that she can talk to that can look it up in order to figure out why they're making this assessment, then we're kind of stuck in this loop, right? So I'm hoping that my 2017 tax situation gets managed, because I don't think I owe them the money. I think that they made a wild-ass guess based on some computer program that thought that I owned a house that I didn't own, and and there's no way to get out of it, and it winds up being like this movie Brazil, where you're at the mercy of this kind of like faceless, soulless thing that has its tentacles in all of your finances. So kind of scary. So I'm thinking maybe there's an upside for me, but because maybe somebody will wind up getting around to looking at my paperwork. But short of that, I think all these people get paid on commission. These IRS auditors. So the more money they think you owe, then the more likely they are to go after you. And I think it's gonna more than double the size of the number of auditors at the IRS. So fun times. Don't you think?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I especially like how they didn't even bother to tell you how they came to their conclusion.
Well, they couldn't tell me. I did get audited once. In like 2000, I want to say like 2010, I made the mistake of giving $25 to Michelle Bachmann, which isn't even recorded. Like, I don't even think, maybe it was $50. I don't know. But I wound up getting audited, and at the end of the audit, after we agreed to the settlement and everything, I asked the auditor, I said, can I ask you one question now that we've worked this whole thing out? And he said, yeah. And I said, what was the red flag? And he said, excuse me? And I said, well, you guys have red flags. Like you have things that you look for that make you think, oh, I need to audit this person. By the way, they wanted a lot of money, and they wound up getting a tiny amount of money. And my tax attorney told me that they'd probably never audit me again because it's like squeezing blood out of a rock. These people get paid a commission, and if they think that they're going to audit you and they're not going to get money back, they'll pass. But after I asked the auditor the question, he was very confused. Like he got this very kind of like, oh shit expression on his face, and he started like shuffling through the papers. Like he was trying to pretend that he was looking for something when he actually really knew the answer. Like I was on a Lois Lerner list. That's the short answer, right? I was on Lois Lerner's IRS list because I had given money to Michelle Bachmann, and so the only thing that he could come up with was that I tried to write off the amortization on my vehicle. And that he said that if I had leased my vehicle and written off the lease payments instead of bought my vehicle and written off the depreciation, it wouldn't have been a red flag and I wouldn't have gotten audited. So now ask me if I believed him.
Well, that was my question.
Yeah, no, I didn't believe him. I thought he was lying, but there wasn't any chance. There wasn't any. So Ron says 9 months is speedy for the IRS. Yeah, I guess it is. That they told us it was going to take 9 months 2 years ago. Okay, they still haven't dealt with it. They still haven't managed it. I think that part of what they do is that they like send out these bills from the IRS, and there's a certain percentage of people who don't have representation or they don't know how the system works, and then they fold. They pay the bill. They go. What's so funny?
Oh, that wasn't so funny. I'm sure it is funny, maybe, but
I gave $10.
That's all you needed to do. If you gave $10 to Hillary, then you might have been all right. Yeah.
So my first thought yesterday, and I tweeted about this, was that I'm curious to find out whether or not yesterday, will be the biggest fundraising day in Donald Trump's history. That is, I wonder.
Bigger than January 6th?
Yeah.
That'd be big.
Yeah, I'm wondering, just because people think that if they write a check, they're fixing it. And my suggestion is go get an assault pitchfork. You can keep it on your wall for when you need it. But get a pitchfork. That's a 5-tine manure fork. I think manure forks are like the perfect shape for politicians. And then you paint it black. And mine's got a quad rail and a laser and a sight on it, but you don't need to do that if you don't want to. But definitely, I think that we're in the black pitchfork phase of the Republic. Scope not required. Yeah, but it looks really cool. It looks really cool with the scope. I had an extra scope. I wouldn't go buy one. Don tipped off the IRS, and the money is pouring in. What if Don called the FBI on himself, like as a fundraising stunt, and they.
That's why the Secret Service let them in, maybe.
And they opened his safe and they found old Playboys with centerfolds of women he used to date. No, see you all in the gulags. No, here's the whole thing. They've got the gulags right here. Like they've got your gulag right here. They're gonna crash the economy. They're gonna tie your social credit score into your allotment for food pellets and gasoline, and at that point, they don't have to build a gulag. Your gulag will go with you. You'll be able to carry your ball and chain with you. They've got that all figured out. Those camps will just be for people with monkeypox or something. I don't know. Where are we? Dawn tipped off the IRS. So should we go back and look at the Duke report?
Yeah, I'm looking right now. I read a couple of NATO stories. They're gone now because of, refreshing. But NATO, I didn't know a whole lot about NATO. I know enough to not like it very much or trust it. But
Carie, that NATO is here to protect us from the Soviet Union.
Well, in the story, it was talking about how in the 90s they were bombing civilians all the time in the Balkan areas, and so that was information. That was new information to me. I didn't really know that, but it was talking about some speeches that this guy gave, who's part of NATO, and it was on that island where that massacre happened. I don't remember exactly when that was, but all those kids. It was a camp. It's a camp for kids, but it's like a NATO camp or something.
Oh, are you talking about Anders Breivik in Norway?
Oh, I believe so.
So Anders Breivik, he wrote a manifesto. I should put the manifesto on the Duke report. I should put Ted Kaczynski and Anders Breivik's manifestos. So where was the story? Do you remember the outlet?
I think it was Ron Paul.
Okay, so if okay, so we could show everybody on the Duke report that if you go to the last 10 stories tab, and then you go to whatever outlet you're looking for, we'll go to Ron Paul Institute.
It's called NATO Learns Nothing and Forgets Nothing.
Okay. All right, and so what's the gist of this story?
He gave a speech that was really boring and pretends like NATO's there for only good purposes, even though you could say the opposite. And they mentioned Gaddafi and other areas like the Slavic areas.
It's interesting that they bring up Anders Breivik in this article, though. NATO learns nothing and forgets nothing. Okay, so address the Workers' Youth League. Oh, interesting. So the Workers' Youth League is a communist summer camp for young leaders. It's like young global leaders for kids. Oh. And the reason that Anders Breivik targeted that, I am in no way condoning or think that doing this is a good idea. I disavow the behavior of Anders Breivik, even though he wrote an interesting manifesto. So this was a camp for kids who are, in general, the children of communist politicians, and they're training them how to be good communists. That's what the camp is. So Anders Breivik broke into the camp, and he killed a bunch of people. I think it's interesting that the NATO Secretary General is addressing the Workers' Youth League. Like, okay, wait, I thought we were fighting the Soviets because they're communists, and now we're making speeches at communist camps. What's wrong with this picture? Well, maybe we were just lied to. So that's interesting. I need to go read that later. You know, the Ron Paul Institute writes good stories. They don't usually, but they're definitely for readers. Like they don't put a lot of emphasis on
video.
headlines or graphics or any of those other things, but they usually have good stories.
Question.
Yes.
Is this on Rumble or Odyssey? I don't believe we are.
I think we're on Odyssey. I can go check. Let's see if I can.
Leslie wants to know if we have any good bug recipes. No. And I never plan on it. I'm very intent on getting rid of all bugs because, well, not all. I want the good ones, but the bad ones, they eat my stuff in the garden. So, yeah, I'm not into that.
What was the question before we started talking about bugs?
Is this on Rumble or Odyssey?
Yeah, we're on Odyssey. I need to get this all sorted out because I stream on half of the streams I'm on are Reality OS, and the other ones are the Duke Report. So I highly recommend that people follow the Duke Report on YouTube, and like and subscribe. I'd like to get it up to 1,000 followers. There's 1,900 people who are subscribers on the Reality OS. I still love Tracy. I still think she's great, but she doesn't do the show anymore. So calling it the Reality OS is kind of weird. We thought that we would stream on the Reality OS because we would deal with it as a channel, and then Tracy and my show would just be a show. But she's been busy, and she's happy and healthy and doing well. But she's not doing the show. So if you could follow us on the Duke Report, if we can get up to 1,000 people on the Duke Report, then things will happen. Like the thumbnail will show up when we start tweeting things out, and it basically YouTube, and then you become much more susceptible to strikes. We did get a content strike on a live stream that I did with, I'm trying to remember. Oh, Bill Taylor of all people. Because I think I made a glib comment about the boop about the procedure, and my glib comment turned into a medical misinformation strike. So there's a strike on the Reality OS. Although what's interesting is that this stream goes out on the Reality OS and the Duke Report at the same time, and we can see the comments for all of them, for both of them right here. And the Duke Report didn't get a strike, but only the Reality OS got a strike. So who knows? Who knows? But yeah, we're on Odyssey. We're on Twitter. We're streaming on my Twitter feed live right now. We're on LinkedIn. I may be the biggest troll on LinkedIn, but I like to stream on LinkedIn because it's where the oligarchs get together, and the joke that I make about LinkedIn is it's a place where all of the house slaves get together and they clink their chains, which is why they call it LinkedIn, because everybody's kind of linked together by their chains of bondage. So so I stream to LinkedIn, and so you can follow us on the Reality OS Facebook page, the Duke Report Facebook page. Follow the Duke Report on Facebook if you're on Facebook. LinkedIn, the Reality OS YouTube channel, the Duke Report YouTube channel, Twitch. We're on Twitch. The Twitch is the Reality OS. I might need to see if I can go change the name of that there. And Twitter and Odyssey. And I would go on, there's one other outlet I could go on, but StreamYard only lets me do 8 at the same time. And basically, this is kind of like the diversity plan. The idea is that I'll stream in as many different places as possible in order to protect the audience from losing me because I've concentrated only on one place. So it's kind of like it's a portfolio strategy.
Hedging bets.
Hedging bets, yeah. So what else was going on in the bombing of Yugoslavia? Went down a memory hole. Countries can choose their own path. Yeah, I haven't answered them back yet, but I started to write an email to the folks at Grammarly, because Grammarly puts a little the Grammarly is the writing program that I use that does uses AI to correct my writing in real time. I find it very valuable. You know, the thought is I might be training the AI to know that I'm a dissident or something in the things that I write. I'll take my chances. But their icon is a little Ukrainian flag. I probably could show it. Let me see. And I sent them an email saying that I didn't like the fact that they were playing this dialectical politic game. And I don't know if I can show it because there might be client stuff on here that I don't want to show.
What's the gist?
The gist is that they changed their icon to a little Ukrainian flag.
Since you wrote the email?
No,
Wait, that was before.
So I complained to their customer service that they're like, that they're warmongering on my writing program, and it was annoying me. And stop screen. I'll show you. So I'm in the middle of writing them back. It's funny because I'm not using their program to craft my message in writing them back. But here we go. Grammarly editor. So you can see here in the upper left-hand corner that, there's a little, the G is a little blue and yellow flag.
Right.
And so it turns out that the three people who founded the company are Ukrainians.
Oh, wow. Okay,
but I'm half Ukrainian. My Ashkenazi half is Ukrainian, Kiev.
Right.
So I feel like again, I'm such a mutt. Like, I've got such a little piece of everything in me that it's hard for anybody to claim privilege on me.
Mm-hmm.
So there it is. What else, Carie?
There's so many things. I mean, there's a lot of news about the procedures and the mRNA, what it may or may not be doing to people. It doesn't,
Yeah, I noticed.
None of that sounds good.
Yeah, I noticed if you're not on the Mark Crispin Miller tip. Mark Crispin Miller used to teach propaganda at New York University. In fact, if you look up Mark Crispin Miller on Amazon, he's written the introduction to like a bunch of like Peter Dale Scott books and a bunch of the who's who of conspiracy books. And he taught propaganda at NYU for years. And when the whole C-19 thing started, he started calling out all of the media and communications as a program. And he was rewarded for that by being banned by New York University from teaching the course that he'd been teaching for 20 years. And let me pull him up here. Mark Crispin Miller. Here we go. And okay, so this is George Harrison, but he had one of the things that he does regularly is that he keeps an eye on reports of people who have either died suddenly or had some kind of spontaneous medical emergency since the whole vaccination thing started. So he just, here's it. And again, it's almost every day. Like he must be compiling all this stuff. And if you're following him on Substack, you'll see somebody saying they are okay now. I know somebody. Yeah. Yeah. What's his name? William Teal, the TWA 800 guy that I interviewed, that I'm still working on the video for. The VA convinced him to have the procedure, and within a few weeks he had congestive heart failure, which was...
He had a heart attack.
Yeah.
We know someone whose husband is dead.
That's right.
After taking it.
They had a stroke, right. Let's see. D-Rock of Yin Yang Twins, never heard of the Yin Yang Twins, collapses on stage. Emily Rolfe withdraws from the CrossFit Games. Apparently there are a few people who, veteran Spokane Valley firefighter will not recover from his cardiac arrest. Tabs on the men. Then he goes to different countries. Somebody with Guillain-Barré disease. Somebody with myocarditis. Myocarditis used to be a really extremely rare disease. It used to affect people who were, the claim was you could get myocarditis from something called, what was it called? It's a bacterial infection of the bloodstream, and they used to blame it on dentistry, and it was called, I can't remember, maybe somebody in the chat will remind me. Myocarditis, endocarditis. I can't remember what the bacteria in the bloodstream was called. Anyway,
yeah, there's plenty of headlines on the Duke report that are, they're not good. War casualties, 10,000% increase in cancer reports after mRNA injections. Jimmy Dore's top story now is 1 in 5,000 vaccinations suffered adverse event, says study. So I don't know. I don't think it's ever going to end. And then the whole monkeypox thing.
Yep. Let's see if we can get Jimmy Dore to play.
I'm here with Dr. Yoganda. Am I saying that, pronouncing that correctly? Yoganda?
Yeah, for some reason I can't get videos to play today. It's suboptimal. It's suboptimal. That's what it is. I probably, if I restarted my computer or something, it probably would work. Have no idea why it's not working. All right. What else do you want to talk about? Or should we take questions?
Oh, there's a really disturbing story from Press for Truth, and it is a video, but it does say, the headline is "Playing God." You see that? It's a second, yeah. They created a synthetic embryo in Israel. That's pretty scary.
Right. So they built a mouse from nothing.
Yeah, they used mouse stem cells that created an intestinal tract, part of a brain, and a beating heart. Yeah.
Fun times.
Yeah.
See, Press for Truth has the same strategy. Odyssey, BitChute, Float, Minds, Rumble, blah, 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 blah. You got to hit people where they are. It kind of messes up chat. But I was thinking about pulling chat under that. There's that chat program that runs independent. And I was thinking about, I have to go look at that.
Leslie says Spanish flu wasn't Spanish or the flu.
Yeah, and I heard somebody I talked to on another show a couple of days ago was talking about how they went like north of the Arctic Circle to start digging up people who had died of the Spanish flu because they were trying to get samples. That was troubling.
Yeah. Yeah, can't we leave it alone? Just leave it there.
Yeah.
I think questions would be a good idea.
All right.
If there are any.
I'm ready if anybody's got any questions. George is in an airplane if anybody wants to know where George is.
You had a weird airplane thing happen.
I did?
Yeah, those people ended up flying with your...
Oh yeah, I tweeted about it. Here, let me see if I can go find the tweet. Yeah, we were trying to get our arms around our finances the other day, And it's interesting, because I think that a lot of people probably have the same problem. They've got their credit cards like on auto pay and stuff, and you don't go and you look at your credit cards every month like you probably should. And it turns out that when we were going through all of the expenses, Carie and I went to Austin to see the Alex's War premiere. So we were there and we spent some time with Alex Moyer and Alex Jones and all of those people down there. But I bought my plane ticket on points. And so I was kind of curious when I was looking at my invoices online. That there were 2 plane tickets that were purchased on my credit card to go from Atlanta to Chicago. And so I called American Airlines and I said, hey, I bought these tickets on points and you charged me. And they looked it up and they said, well, no, you bought these with your credit card and you flew from Atlanta to Chicago. And I said, I don't live in Atlanta. I don't know anyone in Chicago right now. I have a couple friends in Chicago, but I said it wasn't me. And they said, well, your name isn't, and they gave me the name of this guy. And I said, no, that's not me. And then they said, and you're not this guy? And I said, no, that's not me. And they said, well, do you know them? And I said, no, I don't know who they are. And so I wound up having to cancel my credit card and go through all the rigmarole. But it was funny because I called which credit card? Visa? Wells Fargo. I called Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo wasn't even really that interested in their name. The thing is that when you use a credit card for a plane ticket, it's kind of dumb, it seems to me, because plane tickets have your name. They check your ID and
Right.
Unless
it has to be associated.
Unless you're using unless you're in big time felony fake ID kind of world, right? Because it's a felony, I think, to use a fake ID to fly on an airplane. I think that's definitely like a felony. So, so my guess is that it was this person's name, and then it was this person's name, and they flew from Atlanta to Chicago. So that's my. Exciting.
Yeah, it was pretty wild because it was around the same time that we were flying, so it looked like they made a mistake and didn't use the points. But no, that's not what it was. And then I was thinking, wait, it's way too expensive. How is it a $400 and something flight? So it ended up it was from Atlanta to Chicago and back.
All right, here's a question. I love the questions. Just keep them coming. Hello, question. Are the flat earthers Fed guys or some form of paid Francis Bacon psyop shill, COINTELPRO YouTubers? The Bible quotes mean the earth is rounded. Yeah, okay, so that's another quote that I quoted out this week. Maybe we should just go over my tweets. That'd be humorous. And as a matter of fact, I have them right here, so I can pull this up. And then I can share it, and we can talk about this. So Carie and I read the Catholic Bible every morning, and I'm a big fan of Alan Green. And Alan Green has done a bunch of work on William Shakespeare, the sonnets, and a bunch of hidden, encrypted stuff that's on the cover of Shakespeare sonnets, and he's also, I think, decrypted the cover, the illustration of the King James version of the Bible, and so I pay attention. I'm very kind of like attentive to the words that are being used in the Bible when we're reading the Bible, and so Carie read this passage the other day, and it says, and the overflow of the sea appeared, and the foundations of the globe were revealed at the rebuke of the Lord and at the exhale of the breath of his fury. And then in the King James Version, the word globe is taken out. And Likewise, he is the one who sits upon the globe of the earth. He is that sitteth upon the circle of the earth. Okay, King James taken out. Okay, wait, let's go to this.
You can say that one's close, like a circle, a globe.
Yeah, okay, so this one. Still, he has not made the earth and the rivers and the poles of the earth, poles of the globe of the earth. So this is poles and globe, right? And King James says that while as he had not yet made the earth nor the fields, so they skipped it. Again, even if you will have been scattered as far as the poles of the heavens, if any of thine be driven out unto the outermost parts of heaven. And so I need an exegete to kind of look at this and look at the original language that it was written in order to really understand it. Let all the earth be moved before the face, for he founded the globe immovable, as to fear before him all the earth, the world also shall be stable, that it be not moved. Okay, interesting.
Well, remember, we also looked up poles in the concordance.
Yep.
And there was nothing there except for the staff that Moses used for the serpent in the desert. That was the only time I could find pole really mentioned in the concordance, which is supposed to have all the words. So.
Right. And so what's interesting is that I did at Micah Dank when I was doing this, because Micah Dank is Mr. Astro theology, right. Translating, occulted stuff in the Bible, and let me see, exact scripture reference would help. I did have the exact scripture reference, Micah. This is Catholic public domain version, and this is the King James version.
But he means what book, chapter, verse.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might have cropped it out of the screenshots. I'm sorry. I apologize, Micah. Anyway, here's the point. Where's the rub? Okay, the rub is that Columbus. Wait, where's his other answers? Real Micah Dank, because he didn't. He got angry that I was talking about flat Earth. He goes, if there's one thing in life I couldn't care less about, it's flat Earth versus globe Earth. Whoever's right gains nothing. Oh, yeah, but that wasn't my point. So what I said was that historic rumor was that geometers. I think I get this from looking at kind of like the Masonic. If you go back far enough in history of the mystery schools. Then there's a lot of supposition. Let's just say that there were people that knew that the world was a globe, that North America was there, that it was virgin territory, and that they needed to get their technology act together so that they could get over there and conquer it, right? But they didn't want other people to know. So what I wrote was the historic rumor was that geometers knew of the virgin continent across the Atlantic and didn't want anyone going off and discovering things before they were ready to make their moves. I don't know. It's another rabbit hole, but interesting. So here's how the dates fall though, is that the Columbus, who was working for the Catholics, so he was working for the Italians. He was Spanish, and working for the. I'm putting it in air quotes because there's controversy about whether or not Columbus's name was Columbus, whether or not he was really a person or it was just a cutout. But Columbus was ostensibly Italian, and he had gotten permission or the money for the backing from the Spanish court, both Catholic, right? The King James, and that was 1492. We all know that. We all learned that. I don't know if it's true. I mean, Cara of St. Louis might argue with the timeline. But the King James version of the Bible was started in 1609 and then released in 1611. So, you've got, 110 years there between the two of them. And what's curious is that Francis Bacon is thought to have been the guy who oversaw the production of the King James Version of the Bible. And he was a Mason and he was a geometer. He was very much into geometry and the stars and understanding how he was a mathematician. He understood how to calculate, celestial navigation and those types of things. And so the idea that a geometer would take all references of poles and globe out of the Bible is a curiosity to me. I can't imagine why you would do it other than you're trying to keep people from sailing off to North America before you're ready, because they might go and get a foothold before you do. I don't know. I don't know the answer to the question, but it's interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay, so why didn't the name? Why didn't, again, Ron, if you dig into this, there's a lot of people, I think, and again, these are books on the Duke Report. I think it's Manly P. Hall claims that America is not, that that Vespucci's first name was not Amerigo, and that's a whole made up thing. And that America was named America before they ever discovered it because they actually knew it was already here, and so there's a whole kind of rabbit hole that you can go down looking at that stuff. What else? Yeah, why not? I mean, it's all buried under ice, right?
Well, who goes there anymore? Isn't it only like the very wealthy and scientists?
Yeah, I mean, the flat earthers think that that's the big wall, right? Like that they have in Game of Thrones, right? The wall at the end of the ice country, But yeah, there's all kinds of rumors about Antarctica, that the Nazis had a base there, and that there's there were bases there. At one point we did put a nuclear, Project Iceworm? I can't remember what the name of it was, but and then in 1946, famously, Admiral Byrd went down there and supposedly had some kind of encounter with the Nazis or something, and was driven back in defeat. And who knows what the real story is in that, except I think he did one interview with some obscure newspaper, Sierra del Fuego, and that's the only report of that ever escaped. But who knows? Who knows? Can Antarctica be a version of long ago of the Americas? Look, we've gone through. This is why the climate change thing always kind of like makes me laugh. Like, climate changes, the seas have changed their depth over the millennia, 400 or 500 feet from where we know where they are now. Like, George Bush didn't cause that, something.
Wait, but Obama lowered them, right? Right.
Here's the thing. Here, it's funny because I've got my drink with CO2 in it, right? And then I have my drink without CO2 in it. Here's a conspiracy theory I want to start right now. You heard it here first, folks. What if all of the maladies of modernity are actually caused by carbon dioxide being injected into the water we drink? So, what if it's Budweiser and Coca-Cola that are actually causing all these problems? And so, because I wonder, they say that CO2 is a big problem, but you can go to the supermarket and buy CO2. There's a whole aisle of CO2. They might as well call the beverage aisle the CO2 aisle, right? Because you pop that thing open and you're letting the CO2 out into the atmosphere. In the meantime, they're charging people sequester bucks, and they're pulling CO2 out of the air, and they're shoving it into mines under the earth. Like, why are they doing that? Like, they're not shutting down Coca-Cola. They're not shutting down Budweiser.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that.
You're not. No. All right. So, Yeah, and well, there is land. There is land. And a friend of mine, okay, this is like, the Peter Duke, Forrest Gump, Sebastian Copeland, I think Sebastian Copeland, actually solo crossed Antarctica like about 4 or 5 years ago using a kite. Should we find that? What about fluoride? Yeah, fluoride's bad. I mean, Coca-Cola gave me type 2. Yeah, Coca-Cola will do that.
I don't drink Coke. I don't drink soda.
Okay, but my question is, was it the sugar or the CO2, right? They tell you it's the sugar. It probably is the sugar. Okay.
I think it's the sugar.
I think it's the sugar, but why are beer prices going up? Because you're a slave. They don't want you drinking that stuff. They'll come out with bug cola soon. Fermented bug guts. That's the future. CO2 is only 4%, 0.04% of our atmosphere, and we only contribute 11% of that 0.04%. Yeah. Nonsense.
Well, it's a necessary ingredient for life.
It makes plants green. Instead of sequestering it, why don't they take that? Why don't they take all that CO2, put it in the Amazon, and just release it?
Well, that's why the reason I could never buy into their whole scam is because we need CO2. We don't live without it. We need it as much as we need oxygen.
Right.
So
yeah, plants crave CO2. They don't crave Brondo. Plants crave CO2.
Yep.
Maybe we just need to get some of that CO2 that they're sequestering and dump it into our garden. If you had a little CO2 tank and
I like that.
Are you a climate scientist? Is that a claim to authority? Are you challenging our nonsense, which is nonsense, because we're not authorities? I like Cartman's authorité pronunciation myself. I am not a climate scientist, but I do use critical thinking. And I was talking to Richard Grove yesterday. I had a call with Richard Grove yesterday, and I was talking to him about how, because the Prussian education system has eliminated critical thinking from our curriculum, that it makes us particularly susceptible to hypnosis and advertising and marketing. Because if you were trained in critical thinking when you were a kid, none of that stuff would really work, or it wouldn't work as well. And Leslie says we need methane too. Well, that's good because, yeah, methane. Yeah, I have a book on the front of the Duke Report today. I found this book the other day because it was suggested by Freeman Dyson, and I believe there's a Freeman Dyson tarot card from CERN. So he's a heavy hitter in the science world. And there we go, Brave tab, Duke Report, boom. And it's this book right here, The Deep Hot Biosphere, The Myth of Fossil Fuels. And at one point I had a client in Houston, and I used to go to Houston all the time. And I was calling something fossil fuels in a room full of oil executives and scientists, like geologists and engineers. And my friend took me aside and he said, we don't use that term fossil fuels down here. And I said, why not? And he said, well, there actually isn't any proof that oil, or hydrocarbons, as we like to call them, come from biological detritus, like the conventional wisdom is. It's not old dinosaurs and plants. They don't actually know what it is, and for all we know, the Earth may just create this stuff. It may just be part of the, subduction of plate tectonics. When plate goes under another, and it drags seawater, under the mantle. And I thought that was very interesting. Then I found out from Freeman Dyson when I was watching this thing the other day that this guy Thomas Gold actually wrote a book on it. And like I said, Fletcher Prouty actually famously claimed that it was that the idea of peak oil and fossil fuels and all of that stuff comes from the Rockefellers, because they were talking to Cecil Rhodes, who had created this cartel of diamonds in South Africa. And Cecil Rhodes said that the problem with oil is that people think that they can just poke a hole in the ground and find it anywhere. And unless people think that it is a rare and hard to find and limited commodity, then everybody will just start going and looking for it. And when they find it, they'll be driving the price down. So you need to be able to control the prices. And so part of the way that they did that is that they created this PSYOP that is fossil fuels. You know, Sinclair famously, their oil company, their logo is a dinosaur, right? So what Fletcher Prouty says in this book, what Fletcher Prouty says in this interview, and what Thomas Gold says in this book, is that that's bunk. That they're actually that the Earth makes hydrocarbons and that they ooze out. Yeah, exactly. Just like so Rockefeller was trying to do the same thing that Rhodes did with oil. He was trying to get people to believe that it was a limited and hard to find commodity, so that they could, if they couldn't control the supply, they could control the perception. That's where, you know, these fantasy stories like peak oil come from. Because the reality is nobody knows how much oil we really have. They know how much oil they found in the deposits that they found, but they don't know, like, you know, to your point, Carie, about Antarctica, there may be a zillion barrels of oil under Antarctica. Who knows? You know, I don't.
Who knows? We know that it's under the ocean. It's probably all over the place.
Yeah.
My guess.
Indeed. So yeah, Thomas Gold and let me see, and like I said, on all of the books that are on the Duke Report, if you don't have the time, energy, or gumption to read it, I usually put some related videos on the bottom. Here's Freeman Dyson talking about Tommy Gold. The official concept is called a biogenic theory of oil and natural gas. And so I put some videos in here that talk about abiogenic. I think that one of the other pieces of evidence that they use is that they find oil way below the level that an archaeologist may be able to find, bones or some kind of a layer of sediment. It's a lot of this stuff is really deep. Okay. The one world under God. But then this person says, but probably not I think I'm taking these out of context. But it's probably not a good idea to keep taking it out. Is it? Why not? Why not? God made it. God made us smart, and God made us smart enough to find it. Why not? I love oil. I love gasoline. I love the Indianapolis 500. I love twin turbocharged 454s.
I don't care so much about any of that, but I do like we're not killing whales for it anymore.
Yeah, killing whales for it.
No one has to die.
Yeah, exactly. Leslie McKenzie.
We're over an hour.
16,000 feet. We're over an hour.
Yeah.
Does that mean you want to go, Carie?
Yes.
It does?
Yeah.
Okay. There's De Beers, and then there's De Beers.
Oh.
And then there's Da Bears. All right, yeah. Somebody privately chatted me and said, we're over an hour.
Who was that?
Anyway, all right. So will they indict Trump with some BS charges next? Here's what I think that they'll do. They will do everything they can to disrupt the election in November. So the Trump thing is one shoe that's going to fall, and then there'll be other ones. But basically, one of the things that we reported last week is that Hillary Clinton's attorney is now in charge of the post office division that's in charge of overseeing all mail-in ballots. So that'll work out well. And so, at the end of the day, I mean, people think I'm a cynic, right? But I think I'm more of a pragmatist or a realist. I think the system it's rigged and fake. And it's okay that it's rigged and fake, because at least if you admit that it's rigged and fake, then you can figure out the appropriate thing to do. Like if you wrote a check yesterday because Trump fired out an email as soon as he got raided, okay, then you're part of the problem. You're not part of the solution. You think you're part of the solution. They tell you you're part of the solution. They make you feel good. They send you a red hat, maybe a button, or a license plate frame, or a floor mat to put in front of your door, but the system is fundamentally broken, and superhero movies have conditioned all of us into believing that there's a hero. All we have to do is find the right hero. Iron Man has set us up for Elon Musk, and the Apprentice set us up for Donald Trump, and like all these superhero plays are crazy, because what they want us to do is they want us to look externally. They want us to look for somebody else that we can hire to go do that job. And the reality is that the only person that we can really depend on, the only person that you can ever depend on, is you. And so the first step is don't participate. Don't participate in craziness.
Well, I don't think there's going to be an election. I don't think there was in 2020 or maybe ever, but there are elections. I don't believe in elections.
Okay, so Leslie says, should I send money to people so they can get free air miles?
That's probably tricky. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. If you use the right card, you can, I guess, right?
Yeah, use my card. Oh, no, you can't do that.
You don't want that.
So anyway. All right. Well, with that, thanks, everybody. I think George will be around on Thursday. I think he's on an airplane right now. He might actually even be surprised that I did this without him. But, heck, we had to. The show must go on.
We're trying to be consistent.
Exactly. We're trying to be consistent. They killed the hero in the King James Bible. They killed the hero in all the Bibles. Okay, it's like there's a lot of mayhem in the Bible, but we'll save that for another day. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon.